In 1593, King Henry IV of France made a promise that history still remembers. He said no peasant in his kingdom should be so poor that he couldn't afford a chicken in his pot every Sunday. It sounded generous, a vision of abundance, a king promising food security. But while the king was talking, the peasants were already eating. For centuries, their pots had been filled without royal promises, without markets, without supply chains, not by a king made of flesh and crown, but by another Henry entirely. This one never ruled a kingdom. It ruled gardens. They called it Good King Henry, Cenopodium Bonus Henricus. From the 12th century until the dawn of industrial agriculture, this plant quietly fed Europe, not as a luxury, as survival. It grew behind cottages, near monasteries, along footpaths from England to Germany. You didn't buy it. You didn't replant it every year. You planted it once, and it fed you for decades. Welcome to Lost Nature Vault. Today, we're opening the file on peasants' asparagus and why modern agriculture erased it. Not because it failed, but because it worked too well. To understand why Good King Henry disappeared, you first have to understand what it gave us. Walk into a peasant garden in 1550, and this plant was the anchor. In early spring, thick shoots pushed through frozen soil, tasting like sweet asparagus. By late spring, tender leaves replaced them, richer than spinach. And it didn't stop. It kept producing until frost. For centuries, it formed the backbone of medieval diets. Soups of leaves, leeks, chard, and bread. Nutrient-dense broths that carried families through long, brutal winters. The Romans knew its value too. Pliny the Elder described a plant so prized that Emperor Tiberius demanded it as tribute from Germanic tribes. Most historians believe he was describing Good King Henry. That's how valuable it was, and nutritionally modern greens don't come close. In 1989, a study measured its nutrient profile. In 2022, perennial vegetables were ranked for nutrient density. Good King Henry outperformed spinach, kale, and chard. More iron than spinach, more calcium than milk. Vitamin C levels exceptionally high. A full spectrum of B vitamins, all from a plant that required no annual labor. No tilling, no replanting, no seed packets every spring. It returned every year, quietly, reliably, like a promise kept. So where did it go? Why are we spending billions? Engineering climate resilient. Crops when a drought-proof. Nutrient-dense perennial already exists? The answer isn't a conspiracy. It's geometry. The disappearance of Good King. Henry began in 1701 with an English farmer named Jethro Tull. Tull invented the seed drill, a revolutionary machine that mechanized planting. But it demanded one thing above all else: uniformity. Straight rows, predictable spacing, annual crops, wheat, turnips, corn. Good King Henry didn't fit. It grew in clumps. It spread by roots. It refused straight lines. You couldn't drill it. You couldn't harvest it mechanically. In the emerging language of industrial agriculture, it wasn't valuable. It was inefficient. Then came the plow. In 1837, John Deere introduced the steel plow, allowing farmers to tear open virgin prairie. Perennial root systems, deep, dense soil holding, became enemies of progress. Annual crops were easier. Plow, plant, harvest, plow again. The system didn't choose annuals because they were healthier, or more resilient, or better for farmers. It chose them because they were easier for machines. By 1900, tractors replaced horses. Every machine was designed with one assumption: wipe the land clean every spring. Perennials fought back. Their roots ran 3 feet deep. They held soil together. They resisted disturbance. So they were labeled inefficient. Not because they didn't feed people, but because they slowed down the tractor. But machinery was only half the story. The real motive was profit. In the 1920s, the commercial seed industry exploded. Companies realized a simple truth: perennials are bad business. Sell spinach seeds and the customer comes back every year. Sell Good King Henry once, and you lose that customer forever. Self-sufficiency doesn't scale. Dependency does. By 1950, perennial vegetables vanished from seed catalogs. Not banned, just quietly removed. Then came the Green Revolution. In the 1960s, high-yield dwarf wheat promised more calories per acre, and it delivered, saving hundreds of millions from starvation. But the cost was hidden. Total dependence on fertilizers, annual replanting, mechanization at every step. Perennials had no place in this system. Governments subsidized annual grains. Universities studied corn, wheat, and soy. Farmers were trained to think in seasons, not lifetimes. We placed the entire global food system on annuals. Today, annual crops occupy 70% of global farmland. Perennials? 13%. Yet 94% of plant species on Earth are perennial. We took the exception and made it the rule. And the bill has arrived. Annual farming requires constant tillage, bare soil, erosion, carbon loss. The Dust Bowl wasn't an accident. It was perennial prairie ripped out and replaced with annual wheat. Perennials like Good King Henry hold soil year-round. They reduce erosion by up to 50%. They store carbon. They access deep water. Annual crops lose up to 5 times more water. In a world facing water scarcity, we built our food system around the least efficient plants possible, and chemicals filled the gap. Fertilizers replaced soil biology. Pesticides replaced natural suppression. Meanwhile, Good King Henry needed none of it. Deep roots, permanent cover, natural balance. The annual experiment is breaking down, but nature is patient. While tractors conquered fields, Good King Henry retreated into monastery gardens, mountain valleys, stubborn backyards. It survived, and now the vault is opening again. Perennial grains are returning. Soil health is becoming non-negotiable. Efficiency is being redefined. In 2022, conservation programs finally acknowledged perennials. A small shift, but an important one. Good King Henry never disappeared. You can buy its seeds today. Plant it once, harvest for decades. And when those shoots rise next March, and the March after that, you'll be eating food that doesn't depend on tractors, corporations, or fragile supply chains. King Henry IV promised a chicken in every pot, a promise dependent on wealth and stability. The other King Henry asked for nothing. It simply grew. One promise required the world to cooperate. The other was kept quietly underground. Some promises are made with words. Others are kept in roots that refuse to die. If this story changed how you see the weeds in your garden, subscribe to Lost Nature Vault. We're uncovering the systems they tried to plow under. The next vault opens soon.